This country is in the midst of a cost of living crisis, and this cost of living crisis is consistently being made worse by the government's actions, their complete failure when it comes to getting inflation under control. In fact, every decision they make makes this homegrown inflation problem worse. And they're out there spruiking today as much as they can about their tax cuts and the tax cuts that they're giving to all Australians. I mean, tax cuts that have already gone. The cost of everything has gone up so much, these tax cuts are not even going to hit the side. But it really is more smoke and mirrors from those opposite. But, you don't have to take my word for it. We can take the word the Sydney Morning Herald's Shane Wright. Because as he writes, as we know that bastion of conservative values not, the Sydney Morning Herald, the cheer squad for the Albanese government, have said that research compiled for this masthead by the Australian National University's Centre for Social Research and Methods shows average tax cuts and average tax rates for 80% of taxpayers will be back to their current levels or even higher by 2027. But what does that mean in dollar terms? And what he said in dollar terms that's going to mean by next year, a middle-income earning household will be paying more income tax in 2025 than in the 23-24 financial year, despite the deep tax cuts that start from July 1. So how is that possible? If you listen to those opposite, you've all never had it so good. They're doing a fantastic job in the economy. But those of us with mortgages, those of us that have to put food on the table for kids, those of us that have got school fees and school books and driving around to sports over weekend, we know how tough it is and how tough it is for the average family to make ends meet. And why do we know that? Because we know that food has gone up by almost 12%. Now, having a household with 3 teenagers in it, I can assure you the food bill was never small, but the fact that it is exponentially going up at a rate of knots, families cannot keep up. We know that food banks are seeing more and more working families coming to them for help. Housing's up 14%. Rents are up about the same. But electricity, remember, $275 off your power bill, the number that shall not speak its name. $275 that was coming off your bill. Well, we know that electricity prices, and everyone that gets that energy bill knows that they have gone up by over 21%. 21%. Remember renewables, they're cheap, they're free. It's all going to be fantastic, but what they can't tell you and what they won't acknowledge is the $1.5 trillion cost of transmission and distribution when you start looking at this renewable race that they've got happening. And so, when you get your energy bill and you open it up, it's not just the cost of the generation. 50% of the bill is the distribution and the transmission. But the report that they rely so heavily on GenCost to tell you how great their race to renewables are, they have the transmission lines as a sunk cost. What that means for those that didn't study economics, clearly those in the government, sunk costs in GenCost are saying that we don't need to factor in transmission lines, we don't have to factor in distribution costs, because we're going to assume by 2030 they're already built. So in no way is this report that they rely on honest. Is it telling the truth to the Australian people? Because if you've got an average mortgage of $750,000, guess how much money you've had to find since this government came in? Guess how much additional you've had to pay to pay that mortgage? $35,000. $35,000 after tax. After tax, $35,000, not quite the amount of money you've got down the back of the couch, but that's what this government has done to the Australian economy.